Ladies and gentlemen, warmly welcome to the session Data Gems for the Public, Innovative Ways and Best Practices to Communicate Official Statistics. My name is Hannele Orjala and I will be one of the co-organizers of this session. I come from Statistics Finland and work as a head of social statistics.
And my name is Benjamin Wiederkehr. I'm the co-founder and managing director of Interactive Things, a design studio for human data interactions from Zurich, Switzerland.
Let's first explain the motivation behind our session and the topics we will cover. Official statistics have an important role in the world where the need to find and use trusted data has increased significantly. As official statistics are of high quality and reliable, they hold the role of fact-based information to help the general public and policymakers understand the phenomena of societies in an impartial way. While there is a lot of data available, the common challenge of statistical offices is how to communicate statistics in an influential way to actually be utilized in the society. To improve their role in the society, national statistical offices and international organizations have significantly renewed their communication and ways to visualize information. This session will include a series of short presentations and case studies by a diverse field of speakers. The session has three complementary parts. Firstly, we give the floor to Ms. Betty Kisohi from Kenya Revenue Authority, who will give a broad overview of the current state of communication of official statistics. Then we have interesting presentations that introduce innovative methods for visualization of the data by three speakers. Ms. Molly Lesher from OECD, Mr. Markus West from Federal Office for the Environment Switzerland, and Mr. Manos Antoninis from UNESCO. And in the last part of this session, Ms. Mervi Ukkonen from Statistics Finland, Mr. Thomas Reichroek from Statistics Netherlands, and Mr. Eduardo Carcida Campos from INEGI Mexico will highlight their best data-driven communication practices and the impacts of these activities.
And while this presentation today is a pre-recorded session, the attendees will join us for a live Q&A session on Monday, October 19th. And all the videos and all the materials will also be available on the detail page of this session on the UN World Data Forum 2020 website.
Our first speaker is Ms. Beatrice Kisohi. Beatrice works at the Kenya Revenue Authority as Deputy Commissioner Corporate Data Office, a role responsible for the data governance and analytics functions. She also teaches statistical methods as guest lecturer at the university and is the country coordinator of the International Statistical Literacy Project in Kenya. Betty will start our session by highlighting what means innovating in communication.
I'm very pleased to be in this session, participating in this session, to be talking about innovating in communicating official statistics. My name is Beatrice Kishohi. I currently work for a government organization in Kenya where I head the corporate data office. And my areas of focus currently are data governance, business intelligence, advanced analytics, and data literacy. I also coordinate the statistical literacy program in Kenya. I also have some background in research and strategy development. So on to the topic of the day. So what is the problem with communicating official statistics? So from where I sit in communicating statistics from a public office is that there's too many sources of data and information, and sometimes the sources of data are conflicting. One of the cases I'll think about is the current situation where we have a lot of data on the status of COVID-19 in our country. There's a lot of information and sometimes we don't even know what to believe and what not to believe. So that is one of the issues. Then there's a lot of complexity in the statistical terms that may not be able to be easily understood by the common person who is consuming data. So again, that is something that we need to look at. Then there's also difficulty in understanding the data as presented. So sometimes you present data for statisticians like ourselves, while in actual sense, most of the consumers of our data are people with very little data, knowledge in statistics. So there's that, the way we present our data. There's also lack of trust in data. So the data that comes from the public offices sometimes is looked at like it doesn't represent the real situation on the ground. There's low data literacy and culture levels, so we don't have the right levels of literacy of data and also the culture to use data. Sometimes you want to use gut feelings to make decisions. Then data is not contextualized for the specific uses. And when it's not contextualized, then the appetite for that data doesn't really, it gets low. But lastly, also, we have closely related to this is that you're not customizing our data to the target audience. So we just give general communication of data or you're not having the target audience in mind. And the impact of this is that we have very low levels of data utilization. It doesn't add value to maybe the targeted consumer. So there's very low levels of data utilization. There's information that is misrepresented. So we have data that does not represent what it's supposed to represent. There's lack of information because the data doesn't go to the targeted audience, or the targeted audience gets the wrong data or the wrong information. Investment in statistics is very heavy, and if you're not utilizing the data, then it results to low investment, no returns on our investments, and that makes the investors not to prioritize investments in the area of data. So I have come up with 4 points on innovative ways we can communicate official statistics, and they have been highlighted there. The first one is contextualizing and customization of statistics. And I'll talk about the others, the rest as I go through this presentation. So let's talk about contextualizing and customizing statistics. As I had earlier said, one of the biggest reasons as to why we are not communicating statistics, is because it does not talk to the audience. So to improve on this, I have suggested 3 points. The first one is timeliness. Data citizens and policymakers want to tune into real-time information. They want data that refers to that specific period. However, most of the times we find ourselves communicating data that was collected ages ago. So timeliness is important in us being able to contextualize the data, because when you communicate data that is out of date, it doesn't make sense to the consumer. And beyond the timeliness, we also need to talk about how granular our segmentation is. We need data to be able to address our local situations. And the question you're asking is, how does this affect me? How does this affect my community? How is my community doing? So statistics should be packaged, or should be contextualized in a way that they are addressing specific socioeconomic cultural groups. But apart from that, you also need to cover a broad array of socioeconomic, cultural, and environmental subject matters. And then we need to also think about sourcing our data. It has to be an innovative process whereby we get data that is targeting to analyze data for a targeted audience. So we must be very specific about the data that we source, so that as we analyze it, the insights that we derive from that data are able to address the information needs within our target audience. Most of the times we find ourselves just getting any data, analyzing the data, and giving some insights that are generalized to the general public. And I think this is one of the things that is compromising on our ability to communicate data. Other point, my second point, is on how to enhance access to data. Access to data is a major issue from where we are, because institutions are not sharing data. And everybody is suspicious about who is holding your data. So to address this, we need to develop platforms for collaboration in data sharing. And in my country, we have come up with an open data, which is yet to get a lot of or we've not been able to sell it out as had been expected. So we need to be able to work towards having that, and encouraging both private and public entities to be able to share their data, to share their information into those platforms. The other thing, so for us to be able to have an open data kind of a culture, we need to also look at the culture, our culture. We need to work towards establishing a culture of data sharing among the public and private entities. And that is just what I have said, that we are very suspicious of each other. Nobody wants to share their data with each other. And I think that has something to do with the trust. And we always look like there's some mystery about data. So we need to just just demystify that and try to come up with or try to encourage people to share their data. But again, one of the reasons that people are not sharing their information is because they are not assured of privacy and security. That is one of the reasons that we give. And what we have done from our organization is that we have put in place data privacy and security policies, and we have communicated the same to the players within our data ecosystem, so that there's trust in sharing the data with us, and also there's trust in the data that we share with them. The other thing I want to talk about is innovative ways of communicating data, visualizing data. Again, as I had said, statisticians want to communicate their data in form of numbers and in form of percentages and in numbers form, which I think are a bit boring. And you know that human mind is very receptive to visual information. So we need to see how we can be able to turn this around and start sharing our data differently. We need to start turning numbers and percentages and statistics into something more interesting. So I have come up with three proposals. So one of them is interactive customized dashboards. And for my situation, it's working. We have customized dashboards for specific users, and then they are interactive. So we have given our users power, the power to get to be able to manage their dashboards and develop their own dashboards. So that is really working. Then we're also giving some of the data in form of stories, again, that have been contextualized to a situation. We have data hackathons where people are coming together to work around data. So you have a collaboration between us and the National Bureau of Statistics to be able to see how we can have people just work with the open data to come up with stories and information and insights. And the last one is on game analytics. And this is more so in a situation in our context where we have a largely young population, and gaming a bit enticing to them. So this is something we're trying to see how we can adopt to be able to communicate to communicate our statistics. Then finally, I want to talk about enhancing trust in data. And for us, this is a very big issue. And what we're talking about here is that we want to build an ecosystem of data users, of people with an interest in data. And I'm calling them an ecosystem of data producers and users. And what you're trying to do is to work towards having a shared interest, shared values, and shared responsibilities in that whole data value chain. So you need to look at the value chain of the data and try to see how we can get all the players together and share the same interests and values. Towards this, we are encouraging data partnerships. So you want to, and this is something we're already doing. We have brought together numerous players to be able to establish some initial partnership with them, the stakeholders in data sharing, so that as they share our data and we share our data, there's that trust. Again, we are trying to work around enhancing data literacy, both the technical skill and the skills among our users. We actually have a program where we are targeting other government institutions that share our data with, so that we can enhance their literacy and express our expectations. Another one is a quest for data quality. We have a big issue with the quality of our data. And when the data quality is poor, we end up giving the wrong information and misrepresenting. Again, we're working on improving on the accuracy of our data. And the last thing we're talking about, seeing how we can be able to work with all our stakeholders to get something close to the real-time data sharing, data analysis and sharing. So we are not yet there, but we want to see how we can shorten the span between, the line between the acquisition of data, analysis, and the communication of data. So those are the 4 pointers that we have, and that gets to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Petty, for starting this session with an excellent overview of the problem setting and raising the most important points of innovations when we are communicating official statistics. From this, we go further towards visualizations. Please, Benjamin.
Yes. So next we will hear from 3 exceptional case studies where interactive data visualization has helped make official statistics accessible to a wide and diverse audience. First, we will hear from Ms. Molly Lesher, Senior Policy Analyst of the OECD and the coordinator of the OECD Going Digital project, which she will present to you in her case study now.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this panel on innovative ways to communicate official statistics. Today, I'm very happy to talk to you about the OECD Going Digital Toolkit, which was launched last year, and it was developed under the auspices of the overall OECD Going Digital project, which is basically a whole of organization effort to better understand digital transformation and how policies should evolve to best support an increasingly digital economy and society. The toolkit really aims to help countries answer one question: is your country going digital, or is it being left behind? And now I'm going to take you a bit on a tour of the toolkit. And I'd like to start with the Going Digital Integrated Policy Framework, which you see on the screen. This is how the toolkit is structured, and it's a really important conceptual underpinning of the entire site. The framework has 7 different dimensions: access to communications infrastructure and services, effective use of digital technologies and data, innovation, which is a cornerstone of digital transformation, jobs, the impact of digital technologies on the labor market is one of the most important policy questions today. How digital technologies and data is affecting society, trust in digital environments, and market openness, which is really about how digital technologies have changed how firms compete, trade, and invest. Now, this framework was developed over 2.5 years with every policy community at the OECD, and that covers everyone from tax to trade to labor markets to digital economy policy, everything apart from defense. And it really makes the toolkit, I think, a robust instrument, all with the idea of trying to improve growth and well-being. So what we did, and what's probably most interesting to you today, is that we looked across the organization and we mapped core indicators to each of these 7 different dimensions. You see them here: access, use, innovation, job, society, trust, and market openness. And we have lots of different particular indicators in all of those different dimensions. And this is really to help you see in one go, in one visualization, how your country stands. If you're plotted toward the outside of the circle, it means you have relatively better performance than if you're plotted more toward the inside of the circle. And if you ever forget how to read the visualization, you can click on that little question mark right there. Countries really come to us as the OECD and say, how do I perform? And we've tried to help them with that here. I'm just going to pick Finland. Finland becomes the large colored dot. Right now it's benchmarked to the OECD average, which is the black dot, but you could change that to the EU 28 or to a neighbor. Often countries like to compare to someone close to them and to see how they're performing. And it's important to note that in the overall visualization, these are distances from the best performing country, which is again toward the outside of the circle. And if you're Finland, you see from this in one go how you're performing compared to Sweden. Let's say you're interested in access. This is basically the foundation of digital transformation. This is infrastructure. And you see that you're performing worse than Sweden in 3 of the 5 indicators, better in 1, and about the same in the other. And this allows you to kind of dig a little bit deeper at the second level indicators, which shows all of those spindles and a couple more, but it has the actual values. And if we look at fixed broadband penetration, which is one of the more important infrastructures of the digital economy, you can see in more granular detail fixed broadband penetration, the total, which is the large colored bar, and then we've set as the default fiber, which we see as one of the more future-proof technologies. But you might also be interested in cable or DSL or in satellite, and all of those different breakdowns of the data become visible. You can select up to 5 countries to compare, and you can also look over time in a really interactive way. And for us, we felt this was an important feature of the toolkit because it helps countries get a more granular understanding of what's going on in their country and how they might want to improve. So let's say you decide, okay, I see I'm not doing so well in broadband, what can I do about it? And what's nice about the toolkit is that we marry the indicators with the policy advice. And here you see on the Access Dimension page, publications about communications infrastructure like 5G, like trying to bridge the digital divide, as well as recommendations of our council on broadband development, as well as information to help you better measure digital transformation, which is actually not very easy. Many countries don't do it well, and many countries don't do it in a cross-country comparable way. And that's a little bit what we try to do here. Now, some users will approach the toolkit through the lens of the dimensions. Others might want to enter the toolkit through themes. Some of these themes cut across the 7 dimensions. For example, gender, SMEs, skills is a really important one. Here you see we've regrouped all of the skills indicators from the different dimensions. You can see which dimension they're related to based on their color. And again, we have the same publications, policy guidance, etc. And for our member countries and also for some non-members, this has proven to be an extremely powerful tool to better understanding what's happening in their country. And that's basically what the OECD is there to do, to provide an evidence base. If you can't measure it, you can't fix it. And that's what we're trying to do. In the digital context, it's especially important because digital transformation is so complex. It touches every aspect of our lives. It touches all parts of the economy. And data exploration is a visually appealing way to really help countries understand what's happening. Now, what kind of impact has the toolkit had so far? We've had some really nice feedback in the sense that several of our member countries, including Australia and Portugal, have used it to develop national digital strategies to understand which components should be included, to understand which indicators they might use to self-assess performance. And we think that that's a really great use of the tool. One thing I just wanted to mention in closing, we've won a design award for the toolkit. I think it looks really amazing. But what's most important about it is the strength of the statistics. For the most part, because we use cross-country comparable data, we're using data from national statistical offices, and everything that we use is well documented with sources, with notes and disclaimers. So you can really, when you come to the toolkit, you know that it is really robust and we're not sacrificing data quality. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Molly, for your contribution. And if our audience is interested in trying out the Going Digital Toolkit, you can find it at goingdigital.oecd.org. Next up, is Markus Wüest, head of the Environmental Monitoring Section at the Federal Office of the Environment in Switzerland. And he will share with us their approach to impacting policy and behavior through the use of an array of different data products and what role interactive visualization plays in these products.
Hello, everybody. My name is Markus Wüest. I'm working for the Federal Office for the Environment in Switzerland. I'll introduce you to our state of environment reporting and our ways to connect data with communication issues. You see here our legal mandate. It's translated with DeepL.org, so be aware this is not the original text, but we have the obligation to inform public and to put out an assessment from the government to the parliament, all 4 years. This is not quite common. Also on the international level, you'll see this on OECD in neighboring countries of Switzerland, even on cantonal or city level. There are a lot of state of environment reports, and the question is, why do we all this reporting in the environment? This is the hypothesis. This is the reason why we do this. Most of us believe in evidence-based policy, and the better the information, the better the policy should be, and personal behavior should improve if you are informed. You see other missions or the visions around the world, EPA in the United States, European Union, Statistical Office, they really share this impact idea, this belief in evidence-based policy that is behind statistical information in general, and also behind state of environment reporting. Now, it's a little bit more complicated than theory. We can influence, and in the corner here, with our state of environmental reporting, primarily the knowledge base of the people, and the knowledge base is not directly connected to environmental behavior or better policy. There are a lot of other things like values, are there solutions, are there incentives or perceived consequences on the personal level before you really go and change your behavior in the end. So it's quite complicated, and our main instrument, of course, is the state of the environment report. But if we do this properly, if we do really try to get the maximize out of this connection between SOER and knowledge, sometimes we will succeed to also influence other parts, values, probably perceived consequences a little bit with our knowledge. Now, how should we do this? How should we try? You see here a statistical line of worries in Switzerland. You see that after the Waldsterben in Chernobyl, it went a little bit down. In the beginning of 2000, it was on its deepest form. Other worries were more important. Now it's rising again. The problems are not solved yet, so it's not surprising for us, of course. Now, how do we do this information? We try to really repeat information and messages on all channels, online, print, social media, etc. We try to really give the full storyline and do standardize it a little bit or coordinate this storyline with our neighbors, with European partners among this driver, pressure, state, impact, response model. Of course, we need all sorts of information elements, text, charts, maps, tables, key messages, etc., before we can target our products to the audience. Now, you can see here a little bit an idea of which product to which audience. We try to differentiate between public, political users, between our real experts, and of course there's no black and white, there is a lot of gray in between. But most important is that you really try to connect the communication part, the text part, down to the databases that really do most of them really only understand the specialists, the experts there, and that we try to connect it also with some sort of information possibility for the people that they can use, that they can that they can look from another side into the data. And we have built something new. We're just beginning to use this. You can find this tool on www.visualize.admin.ch. You can go there and create your own visualization. You can select a data set. In our case, an environmental data set. You can edit and configure the visualizations. You can choose whether you want a line or a bar chart or something else. And in the end, if you have really configured it, you can use this chart in your website, in your social media account, and then share it. And of course, for your own information or for informing your colleagues, your friends, your family, with something that you probably didn't find in our official State of the Environment report, but is done with the same data there. Now, in the end, it can look like this. And if you really want to try it, you can. We do not have yet, in the end of 2020, we do not have a lot of data there, but in the beginning of 2021, we will start to put our data on this platform, and it will be open for all people. There will be no login, so just feel free to use it, to try it, and give us your feedback. Now, thank you. That's all for the moment. If you have questions, come back to me. Don't hesitate to contact Federal Office, Markus Wüst. You will find me there. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Markus, for your contribution. And if our audience is interested in trying out the visualization tool of the Federal Office of the Environment, you can find it at visualize.admin.ch. The last case study on data visualization will be presented by Manos Antoninis, the Director of Global Education Monitoring of the UNESCO. Manos will share how they use exploratory and explanatory data visualization to report on worldwide education data.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It is a real pleasure to be with you to present you two tools that help bring education data, SDG 4 data, closer to the public. I'm Manos Antoninis, the Director of the Global Education Monitoring Report. And maybe a quick word of introduction on the report, which exists as an editorially independent publication hosted by UNESCO since 2002. In 2015, the report received the mandate of governments from all over the world at the World Education Forum in Korea to monitor education progress in the SDGs. It is very important to clarify that we're not a data producer, we're a data user, but a rather engaged data user. We have taken an active part in the design of the SDG 4 monitoring framework. And in that sense, we have been always concerned with the fact that in education, education data have been historically relying on a single source, school censuses. However, in the early 2000s, it was already becoming very clear that there was a diversification of data sources coming now increasingly from learning assessments and from household surveys, which help draw attention to the issue of equity in education. And this has really helped shape SDG 4 monitoring. From our perspective, we really wanted to make sure that these types of sources are being used. And on the occasion of the 2010 edition of our report, which focused on marginalization in education, we put together all the evidence we had on education inequality through a database. And in 2012, this database, known now as the World Inequality Database on Education, became interactive with the support of interactive things. The database includes 25 education indicators, 6 dimensions like sex, location, region, religion, wealth, ethnicity, and we're about to expand that to disability and also parental education background. Some of these, as you've seen on this moment in the video, are intersecting. So you can see how poor rural girls are doing in different countries in terms of enrollment or completion. Two disparity measures are portrayed. One is absolute, a gap, and the other one is a relative, is a parity index, which is a global SDG indicator. And we provide information on more than 160 countries and for covering more than 1,000 surveys. You can see that you can do comparisons between countries, but also over time. And the findings can be shareable. Since 2019, we have been collaborating with the UNESCO Institute for Statistics to ensure consistency and coherence in the way these data are reported globally. Our efforts have not stopped there. The report has been well known over the years for good graphic representation, but all these graphs were available simply on a static site, on the printed version of the report or the online publication. We were very concerned that we needed to introduce a more interactive complement to the report's monitoring part. So in January this year, on the occasion of International Education Day, we launched Scope, Scoping Progress in Education, an attempt to provide users the ability to do and choose by themselves how to do cross-country and time series comparisons through a story-based narrative that has at least 6 core graphs, enabling users to do interactive visualizations, looking at the same data, but being able to play with them and do different, look at them from different angles. It's very important to say that this is explicitly linked to the SDG 4 monitoring framework. You see on the right-hand side of this image from the video that you can link to the SDG indicator, you can look at the definition, and wherever that is available, also to the UIS dataset that underlines it. Apart from complementing the printed version of the monitoring report, this website also seems to be providing a good teaching tool. We hear examples from all over the world where teachers are using it to demonstrate progress in education globally. It offers media resources, can also be used for academic references, and in its 5 stories on access, equity, learning, quality, and finance, users can find living rather than static advocacy tools, because the report itself is evidence-based research publication, but also has an advocacy role to play. And that brings me to the end of the presentation. As a reminder, these are the 2 websites that I mentioned. We're looking forward to your feedback and to spreading the word for these really very helpful initiatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Manos, for your contribution. And if our audience is interested in exploring these 2 platforms, you can find them at education-inequalities.org or education-progress.org.
At this point, we turn to communication cases introduced by 3 interesting examples from Finland, Netherlands, and Mexico. Our first speaker of this area is Mrs. Mervi Ukkonen. Mervi is the Chief Communication Officer at Statistics Finland. She is a team leader in a team of 8 persons, which deals with communication, media relations, social media, events, and marketing. She has a strong journalist background and experience in the communication at ministry level. During her term of office, the significant steps have been taken to modernize communication. Let's turn to Mervi's presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Mervi Ukkonen and I come from Statistics Finland. Statistics Finland is a government statistical agency whose function is to produce information for the needs of society. In recent years, our goal has been to strengthen our position in social debate. We want to be profiled more strongly than before as a defender of reliable research data and as a broadener of citizens' understanding. Active and personalized communication is a key tool for increasing effectiveness. In my presentation, I will tell about our experiences and give examples of communication with which we have advanced from a producer of statistics towards a statistical influencer. For several years, we at Statistics Finland have been developing our communication to respond better to needs and requirements of the changed media environment. We want to communicate openly, analytically, and boldly. I will now tell you about our work and the results of our work by means of a few case examples. Through these, we have made a strong contribution to social debate and gained new kinds of visibility in the media. Statistics Finland has popularized statistical data with a more proactive and phenomenon-oriented approach than before. At the same time, the communication model has been developed into a journalistic direction. Last year, parliamentary and European Parliament elections were held in Finland. These topics filled the media agenda for several months. We took the opportunity to give background information for the election debates, utilizing our own expertise. We brought factual information impartially to the debates. We offered communication in a multi-channel manner. Factual information was shared proactively in media events, online services, and social media even before the elections and in connection with the election debates. We received a lot of positive feedback from both media representatives and experts about our new approach. In a couple of years, we have reached excellent results with communication. Our social media activeness has risen, and this year we were among the best organizations on Finland's top 100 list of social media influencers. In mentions in editorials, we reached a new record, and our experts are interviewed even more in the media thanks to our activeness. Another key change in the operating mode has been increased visuality and experimentality in our communication. The change in the way the media is used highlights the importance of both visuality and new innovations. One response to these needs is our own news studio, which we have built in our office premises. We produce news broadcasts and other videos and podcasts in the studio. We use videos to increase the visibility of data, communicate about data collections, build a brand, and make our experts known. We make around 80 videos per year.
Moni haluaa tuoda esiin omia tuntemuksia ja epäkohtia.
Interested in faster, more accurate and more granular information.
Keskuksessa liittyy kyllä varmaan siihen, että mä saisin olla mukana kehittämässä tätä meidän työympäristöä ja kulttuuria ja näitä välineitä, niin pala kerrallaan niin kuin Suomen parhaaksi virastoksi.
In future, we will make live broadcasts from the studio on our communication channels. I will end my presentation here from Statistics Finland's wonderful studio. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mervi, for sharing your very interesting experiences today. Our next speaker is Mr. Thomas Reichroek, Editor-in-Chief at Statistics Netherlands. He has a long career as a journalist, political reporter, and editor-in-chief for various media organizations, including a number of TV, current affairs programs on public broadcasting organizations. Thomas will talk today under the topic Statistics for Public Debate.
Well, I'm Thomas Reichroek, Editor-in-Chief of the Communication Department of Statistics Netherlands, and in this short presentation I will show you how we provide the Dutch public our figures. because the distribution and dissemination of our figures is legally required, and our task is it to give them as many Dutch people as possible to become aware of those figures. That's what we do all the time. That is one of my biggest tasks, what I do at the CBS Netherlands. So this is my working space. This is the place where we work. This is a newsroom. You can see it there. These are my colleagues. We really see ourselves as a news organization. The newsroom is copied from spaces you can see at the spaces where journalists work. And myself, I was a journalist for over 25 years in the Netherlands. I worked at various current affairs television programs on Dutch Channel 1. And what you see here is the environment, the natural environment in which I worked for over 25 years. And now it's at the CBS. If you look at much further at the at CCN, is our communication department, we have two main strategies. And I can show you our main goal is to reach audiences, and we can do it in two ways. The first is the direct way, to meet our audience direct. That means dissemination through our own channels. We call it owned media. So if we speak of our own channels, we speak about the website, our social media, our publications. And what you can see is there are a few people in the picture you can see, but the other part of the strategy is the indirect strategy, and that's much more successful. We call it the indirect strategy, and we make ourselves visible in the media. We call it the not owned media. Well, that's logic. We do this by actively sending part of our messages under strict embargo 24 hours in advance to all major news organizations. Automatically, journalists have time for a good story, and it appears everywhere. On good days, some days, we have a reach of more than 5 million people in the Netherlands who see our figures. And well, as you know, there are 17 million people living in the Netherlands, so 5 million people who can see our figures every day is quite a success, I think. And the embargo part of it is one of the major points of our success. The fact that journalists receive our messages in advance is part of the success, and the fact that 3 former journalists run a newsroom is also another part of the success. We know that the media landscape, and I also regularly visit offices of journalists. I do that with my colleagues, and we have a very good connection with them. So what we do also have at the CBS is a studio, and maybe you can see here something. In the studio we have, you can switch live with various TV programs. The National Business Channel in the Netherlands is particularly regularly uses the expertise of our chief economist, who has already become one of our best known economists in the Netherlands. And I hope I can show you something of that.
Meer miljonairs en gemiddeld 10% meer vermogen. Op papier is het vermogen van Nederlandse huishoudens met bijna 10% gegroeid. Blijkt allemaal uit cijfers van het Centraal Bureau voor de Statistiek. De meest vermogende mensen wonen vooral in kleine gemeenten in Noord-Brabant. Hier wonen veel ouderen die hun hele leven al vermogen hebben opgebouwd. Mensen met een klein vermogen zijn vooral te vinden in de grote steden. Rotterdam is de armste stad van ons land. En wij praten erover met Peter Hein van Mulligen van het CBS. Goedemorgen, meneer van Mulligen. Die vermogensstijging, waar komt die dan vandaan?
Die heeft natuurlijk 2 componenten. Voor de meeste Nederlanders zit dat vooral in het herstel van de woningprijzen. En voor de gros van de Nederlanders is toch de eigen woning.
So that was our chief economist, and now I can show you all the newspapers in the Netherlands with our figures in it. Every day, so you can see that's the financial paper you can see over there. It's about the growth of the economy, and you can see it in every paper everywhere. Dissemination is all over, I would say. We made a tool that's called our media portal, and in that media portal we can see how many times we are mentioned in the media in the last year. So this is in 2020, we have been mentioned for 65,000 times. So that's a lot. And you can see if you go to look at the figures and you see the colors that in print it's small, then the green one is radio and television, and the dark blue is online. So you can see that online is still one of the places you can find us at the most. We are very proud of this tool as well. So I can see every day in which newspaper or online platform the figures were seen. Then one of our most challenges here now is this. What you can see now is the traditional media, the news and the television and the newspapers. But what's more important is, and you can see it already, is social media. The idea of this is that we keep finding social media, and what we do, we keep feeding them, and if we feed them, they keep referring to each other. And if they do that in all kinds of ways, that our messages can flow through the society just like a bloodstream. That's what we are doing now. We do that because the traditional media are already referring to us a lot, but in the social media it's still a challenge. We do that. We have a special social media strategy for that. I can show you. This is our YouTube channel. It's in Dutch, so you can see, but there's also, I think there is an English site as well. But we have the news, innovation, CBS in the classrooms, and we have There Is Again, our most on the, you can see on the right side, the most famous economist in the Netherlands is Peter Heijn. And well, in that YouTube, you can see it's all our videos are in it. And that's because of, if you look at YouTube is in the United States already the biggest search channel. They're already bigger than Google. So YouTube is a big challenge for us to conquer that in a couple of years. What I already told you, we make in our studio at CBS our own videos, and I will show you one. That's for social media. We made this one, and it's about this has English subtitles, so you can see it. This is our chief social specialist, Tanja, and she's telling about people working at home in the Netherlands.
Steeds meer mensen werken thuis. Af en toe een dagje of je huis als werkplek. Maar wie is dat nou eigenlijk, die thuiswerker? In 2017 waren er ongeveer 3 miljoen mensen die thuis werkten. Voor een deel daarvan, ongeveer 1,2 miljoen mensen, is hun huis ook een werkplek. Een groter deel, 1,9 miljoen mensen, heeft bijvoorbeeld afspraken met een werkgever over een dag thuiswerken of doet dat omdat het net een keer beter uitkomt, omdat er een monteur langskomt bijvoorbeeld. De afgelopen 5 jaar is het aandeel thuiswerkers toegenomen van 34 naar 37%. Die toename die komt met name doordat er steeds meer vrouwen zijn die hun huis als een werkplek gebruiken. En dat zit er met name in de ZZP'ers. Onder mannen zien we die toename ook, maar die is minder groot. Wilt u nou meer weten over thuiswerken? Kijk dan op cbs.nl of volg ons op Facebook. Ja?
Absoluut. Perfect.
Nou zit alles erin. Ja. Gaan we de huiskamer afbreken?
Good. Well, much remains to be said, and what I can tell you now is you're always welcome to CBS Netherlands, where I will gladly like to show you what happens there, and I will show you our newsroom and our studio. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas, for sharing your excellent experiences with us. The steps Statistics Netherlands has taken gives all of us new viewpoints of the possibilities we as official statistics providers can have in communication field, showing that official statistics producers can turn to be a newsroom. Our last speaker today is Mr. Eduardo Garcia Campos. Eduardo is Director General of Communication, Dissemination and Institutional Relations in INEGI, Mexico. In addition to the different positions in INEGI, he has worked as Director of International Affairs in the Presidential Office and as a Technical Secretary of the Head of the Public Policy Office of the Presidency. Eduardo is also one of the writers of the UNESA paper, Strategic Communications Framework for Statistical Institutions, which was launched in 2018. Eduardo's topic today is Strategic Communication for Social Media, Lessons from the 2020 Census in Mexico.
Hello to everybody. It is a great pleasure for me to be part of this forum and to share with you some thoughts about our social media strategy, focusing on the 2020 Census of Mexico. Carry out the census is a tremendous effort in order to gather the information of more than 120 million people. So our initial question was, how to make more than 40 million homes to open their doors for us? First of all, we need an environmental scan to get information about stakeholders, economic and social aspects in a country with a lot of aspects to consider, such as multiple languages, different cultures and traditions, and other conditions like insecurity and recently the COVID-19. Our strategy had several components and it was designed as a full media campaign. We were very active in mass media, TV, radio, papers, newspapers, magazines. We design actions for specific groups, such as people with a different religion, languages, and information consuming habits. We also print materials focused on spreading the message. We did an important collaboration work with stakeholders to increase the impact of the message. Our employees became our ambassadors through the internal comms action. And also social media, where I would like to focus my presentation. To address the challenge and to be able to reach larger audiences formed by new generations with different consuming habits, we adapt our social media strategy. We want to share some of what we believe are best practices on digital marketing based on our efforts during the 2020 census. First of all, I want to highlight how crucial it is to connect emotionally with your audience, because reaching massive amount of people is easier when you touch their emotions. Deploying a nationwide census needed a strong social media strategy to achieve good levels of awareness and engagement that made people feel compelled to answer the survey. Engaging with different audiences was important for the success of the campaign, but engagement is only effective if an audience is clearly defined. The best channel for reaching a specific audience depends on many factors, such as regional or local circumstances. Each channel is unique, so different forms of content for different audience are required. Using multiple channels to reach the population target is essential, but the message must be consistent, and content should be specifically tailored for each channel. This video for social media is an example of the tailored content for a segmentation by region in Mexico, the state of Guanajuato. We made different kind of content for each of the 32 states of Mexico.
Ya viene el Censo de Población y Vivienda 2020 a Guanajuato. Tus respuestas nos sirven para saber cuántas personas somos y cómo vivimos. Cuando toca el entrevistador del INEGI, ábrele y dile:
Pregúntame.
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 Censo de Población y Vivienda 2020. INEGI, Conociendo México.
Well, number 2, seek endorsement. Look up for alliance to get your message everywhere. This partnership became a key component of the strategy. We went to look for the collaboration of literally everyone, from politicians to influencers, major airlines and banks, mass consumption companies to show our image in their products, such as milk, pasta, bus stations, cell phones, everyone and everywhere. There were more than 690,000 tweets about our census. Number 3, obviously, some things won't go the way we want. However, we don't have to fear crisis. We have to manage it. By tracking millions of conversations happening in social media, blogs, news, and others, we prevent crisis situations and react fast and effectively to any possible threat. Number 4, our people is our brand. Recent studies suggest that the workforce has a tremendous impact in the reputation of a brand or organization. Therefore, we need to be aware that the line between internal and external communication has become thinner over time. Here are two sides of the coin. In one hand, a proud interviewer became viral by showing his pride of being part of the census through a video. On the other hand, we had a minor disagreements in some offices that also could have affected the reputation of the campaign in the media. Last but not least, number 5, be smart. An effective campaign in social media requires a smart execution of the budget. And I want to highlight the acronym SMART for an objective to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, because social media strategy needs all of these qualities. With an investment of over $1.1 million, we got great numbers, as you can see. This presentation is about taking advantage of social media to spread the message of the census all around our country. But this recommendation also applies for data dissemination. Remember, if you want to take your message to the next level, you have to connect emotionally with your audience. Once you have crafted your message and identified your segments, seek for endorsement to help you to reach the spotlight. Take in consideration there will be hard times. Just focus on managing crisis. Don't leave your people out. They are your brand. Be smart from setting the right objectives to the execution of your strategy. Always think about effectiveness rather than big budget. Finally, I wrap up my participation with this quote by the author, David Olson, that says, social media is not a media. The key is to listen, engage, and build relationships. Thank you very much for your attention and keep safe.
Thank you, Eduardo, for your excellent contribution and census case. It's time to summarize the most key findings from our session. Benjamin, what are concrete learnings you would like to raise from the presentations?
Yes, so I thought that Betty made the case for too much data, but too little insight quite well at the very beginning. What I believe Molly, Marcus, and Manos showed were extremely effective examples at showing how good and reliable information is essential for impacting policy and behavior, but that the information needs to be presented in the right format to be accessible, understandable, and actionable by the target audience. So I'm curious, what do you think? What are the most important learnings that you would like our attendees to take away from today's presentation?
Oh, good question, Benjamin. My key takeaways from the speakers are as follows. From Mervi's and Thomas' presentation, I like how they both presented the consequences of their new communication strategies. Mervi pointed out the target to turn from producer statistics to an influencer with data with a more open, analytic, and bold tone of voice. And from Thomas, surely thinking out of the box can produce innovative ways and shift totally to the next level. An idea of a statistics newsroom was very inspirational, and I really like that. And Eduardo's 5 lessons that he summed up were excellent highlightings in his 46 million homes census case. But especially remembering to connect emotionally with the audience sounds an extremely important takeaway for all of us.
So we're at the end of the official part of this pre-recorded session. If you have questions that you would like to ask any of our panelists, then please head over to the detail page on the UN World Data Forum website, and you will find a description how to join the Q&A session on Monday, October 19th.
Thank you all for joining us today. Especially we thank all our speakers and all that have helped us to produce this session. We also hope that you all have benefited from our broad portfolio today and have concrete learnings to take away.